Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 75. England against Ireland at Twickenham in the final weekend, and England with a chance to break Irish hearts. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that still believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome to Super Saturday. Obviously the last weekend, the last Saturday, the last day of the Six Nations. Lots riding on today. We've just watched the Italy against Scotland game. That was a bit of a knife edge game. Italy, I think, unlucky to just miss out there. We'll have a quick chat about that in a moment because, of course, I'm joined by Dan. Hi, mate.
Holy freaking shitballs! Scotland were lucky there.
Very. And I'd also say Italy were unlucky. I mean, I thought they played really well.
Yeah, they did. I think what that's probably done is guarantee, I think it was probably guaranteed anyway, but guarantee their place in the Six Nations for at least another year, if not 3 or 4.
Yeah, definitely. And you'd like to think this is just, they're going to get better all the time. So hopefully we're going to see more of these sorts of performances from them against everyone.
I mean, we've been thinking that for 16 years, haven't we?
I mean, that's the best performance I've seen from an Italian team that I can remember. I know they've won games before, but I thought just the way that they played, they looked better in that game than I can remember seeing them before.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout.
Well, anyway, before we talk too much about that, just a little bit of admin. We've had another review. Always nice to read them out. We don't get nearly enough of them, so when we do get them, we want to share the love. So this is All That's Missing is a Pub. Is the title of this one. It's from V.A. David in the US. He says, as an American, I'm so happy to have live games from the Premiership and now the Six Nations on NBC, but I missed the chance to talk to knowledgeable fans about what we can now watch. Is that all right? Yeah. With this podcast, I can get much of the same feeling, like being down the pub with two great rugby mates. Thanks, guys. So that's
awesome.
Nice. Exactly what we're trying to do, and clearly we've ticked the right box there for David. So thanks for the review, thanks for the 5 stars, guys. Keep them coming.
Thanks, David.
So yeah, on to today. Massive day. That first game out the way. Obviously, the next one's the big one, of course. Ireland going for the Grand Slam. England have to win for their, I don't know, for everything, pride, sanity. To get the media off their backs a little bit, to give them a chance to regroup. And I think for a little bit of revenge after last year, where, of course, the roles were reversed and it was Ireland that upset England's Grand Slam chances in the final game.
If England don't win, it's going to be a long spring and start of summer till the tour, because they'll just have that monkey on their back, so to say. And
I think, as you said in the last episode, we're going to need to rest players in the summer. We've got a World Cup to think about. And what we can't do is have a poor performance today and then get to the summer and then rest people, because, do you know what I mean? Like it's not going to work. We need to prove that the guys have got what it takes. They just haven't delivered a couple of times. And then you can rest them and bring in some new people and go on tour to South Africa and kind of be ready to go for the autumn for the All Blacks game. If we lose today, you kind of feel you have to take your first team.
I know what you mean. I don't think we need to. I think that may be overkill a little bit. I think performance is key today. If we have another performance where we're getting turned over constantly, sort of 11-3 type thing, if we're still giving away 15 penalties or whatever, then we've got a problem. If we put in a great performance and we're beaten by a very good Irish team, I think we can live with it. It'll be infuriating. But as an England fan and those guys as England players, it's got to hurt that you're not the best in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah. When you're trying to be the best in the world.
Yeah. So I hope they're there.
Yeah. Look, I think the thing we need to bear in mind, and for all the England fans who are kind of backing them for the World Cup and what have you, the thing to remember particularly about this game, Ireland obviously, they're going for a Grand Slam. Ireland against France, was a very similar game to England against France. Ireland, through a moment of individual genius, managed to scrape a win.
Yeah, it wasn't a similar game, but it was a similar sort of scenario.
Situation, yeah, at the end. Yeah. You know, England were obviously going for a late win, failed to deliver, you know, handling errors, and the game was over. Ireland, to their credit, managed to hold on to the ball, but they weren't going anywhere. You know, there was no way they were getting those points, and until Sexton decided, you know what, I'm just going to have a crack, and he absolutely nailed it. So, moment of individual genius is what won that. Otherwise, you know, Ireland would be coming here with at least one loss under their belt. So, you know, and you look at their other results throughout the Six Nations. You know, the Wales game, another close one. You know, another one where Ireland were fortunate to win. So, although the results suggest that Ireland are the out-and-out favourites, I'm not convinced that that's the case. And I actually think that Twickenham is the key factor today. And I think England are the favourites going into this, despite the recent results.
I would still put Ireland slight favourites. But as we said yesterday when we were chatting, good teams find a way to win. England did it last year in the Six Nations against France when we were losing towards the end, against Wales with that beautiful Elliot Daly try. Good teams find a way to win. Ireland against France, yeah, fair enough. That took a moment of pure genius by Sexton. But remember, they had like 41 phases till then. England can't seem to put together 6 or 7 without giving away a penalty.
I'm not saying that Ireland aren't a good team. They obviously are. They know, you know, they're able to grind out the wins too. I just don't think that I don't think the divide is as big as perhaps the media is making out between these two sides today. And I think that's an important thing to remember going into this, because I think there will be a lot of people, you know, who are supporting England who, you know, because of 2 bad results, have lost faith. You know, I've already heard people saying it, you know, this team's awful. And you're like, how's this team suddenly awful? They didn't come shit overnight. The results speak for themselves.
It was. I'm still angry that we didn't learn from our mistakes against Scotland. I find that arrogant, unbelievable.
Almost. It's like, of the one thing that you had to do differently across those 2 games was sort out the breakdown. And it seems to be the one thing they went, nah, we'll be all right. And it does feel a little bit like arrogance. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure there's more to it than that. But, you know, as a supporter, as a fan watching from the sidelines, it's really frustrating, because you kind of feel like, well, everybody knew that's what they were going to do. They even told everybody that's what they were going to do. And then they did it. So you know, either you just assumed it was a double bluff or assumed it was a bluff and got double bluffed, or I don't know. I don't understand it. You know, or maybe it simply comes down to the team selection. I mean, this is probably a good place to bring in, you know, the squad for today. He's obviously made a lot of changes. That for me, that breakdown that's the one thing that England needs to sort out. It's, you know, we discussed it. I don't mind what he's done in the backs, but I would have been equally as happy keeping Ford at 10, because I think it's about sorting out the breakdown and getting the quick ball. And as we said in the last episode, that's not a, you know, if you can't do it, you need a plan B. That's a you need to do it. Simple as that.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but I do like the look of the backs purely because I want to see how these work, and as another option. Not necessarily,
but they're not going to be able to do anything if the breakdown is lost the same way. If the ball is as static as it has been in the last 2 games, it doesn't matter who you've got in the back line. They're still going to have the same problems, because they're still not going to have quick enough ball to be able to do anything.
Well, what you got to hope is you get a TO who can break a half tackle, get a bit of momentum, and then on the front foot, hopefully a little bit of quick ball if Ireland are going backwards. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you, mate. Like, the breakdown's key. The Haskell Robshaw thing, I'm glad Haskell's in. To me, it just seems a bit like these were the guys when we were winning everything. Let's go back to them. I think Armand should have started.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is just, you know, this is the door for him, isn't it? It's he's going to get his shot, and it's important for him to take it. I mean, you and I were talking about Robshaw, and we've always been, you know, kind of big advocates for the guy, but I think it was you that said to me, statistically, you know, looking at his statistics, they're not actually as good as you might like. You know, he's fairly solid. He's not going to give you a really bad game. He's not going to lose you a game. But I think the big question with Robshaw is he going to win you a game? You know, is he someone who can make the difference in a World Cup, or is he simply someone who you can fill a shirt with, and he's not going to have a bad game? I don't know if that's harsh. I don't mean it in it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a good player, but is he a great player? Is he ever going to be, a world-class player? I think the answer is no.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Rob Shaw will rip up roads for you.
Well, he'll try. That's the important thing.
But he won't. Yeah, he's not a game changer as such. What he will do is give you the most honest 80 minutes you're going to get from probably any player in the world. And he'll do that week in, week out. And there is something massive to be said for that. But
I guess if the rest of your squad is bossing the breakdown and you're getting the quick ball, then someone like a Rob Shaw, who's just a workhorse, is a vital role.
Yeah.
If you can't win the ball, his hand, couple of carries, couple of meters, couple of tackles, they don't really amount to very much in the grand scheme of things when you look at a game. That's my concern with him. Is that there's just not, it's not that he's putting in enough effort. I think his maximum effort, it just doesn't seem to be quite enough unless things are going really well for England.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, for example, when Haskell came on last week, you noticed a difference.
Yeah.
I like you say. Yeah, sorry, mate. I was saying, like you say, if a team's working well and then suddenly you've got that workhorse going as well, a bit like a Launchbury, although Launchbury in a slightly different way, then that is huge value.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got a workhorse who isn't able to sort of change a game, then that's when it probably becomes less valuable. And that's through no fault of Rob Shaw. This is by no means having to go at Rob Shaw.
That's what I'm saying, though. That does he, maybe the right way to put it is, does he fit the mould for what England need right now? And I would say that right now he doesn't. And one of his biggest one of the biggest things that he adds to that team is experience. And that's all well and good. But even though he's been the England... is he one of the leaders? Maybe. He's obviously been the England captain. He knows how to do it.
You'd hope so, yeah.
It's a difficult one. It's very easy, obviously, for us to say, make changes. Because we want to see something different on the pitch. We want to see a different result. But, I guess these are the guys who have given us results in the past. But there's only so many times, and we said it last week, give them another chance. They'll turn things around. They didn't. And I think you can only give them one chance to do that. I think making the changes this time around is the right call. Lots of people saying, "Oh, are England running scared? Is that why they've made so many changes?" I think the answer is no. The players need a shake-up.
The changes are interesting if you look at them. So firstly, actually, before I go down there, what do we think about Launchpad being dropped?
Look, he's been dropped to the bench. He's not been dropped.
Of course, yeah. Sorry, I forgot. I'm speaking old school. So,
but what I'm saying is, if we look at it as a 23, we've always talked about the awesome foursome. Well, it's still the awesome foursome. They're still all involved.
Well, it's his own fault that he's been put to the bench, because the problem is he plays too well week in, week out. So the expectations of him are so high that even if he has a okay game, it's seen as shit, because normally he's just so brilliant. So
yeah, maybe it's just
if you're listening, don't play so well.
In all seriousness, I think he's had a couple of games where he's not been at his best, despite what we've said of him in the past. Maybe he's unfortunate because he makes the mistakes where you can see them.
I actually think there's more to it than that. I don't think it's a case of being dropped. If you look at sort of key positions, so you look in the row, who's he gone for? He's gone for Atoje Cruz, Saracens. I think he's gone for these partnerships where people are going to be comfortable. Back row, Haskell, Rob Shaw, who are sort of the partnership under Eddie. He's gone for that. Halfbacks, he's gone Wigglesworth, Farrell, Saracens together. So I actually think that plays a big part of it. Having these partnerships.
And, look, Launchbury's there to come on if things are not working, if someone else isn't performing. We know Eddie Jones isn't shy when it comes to making changes if he thinks things aren't working out. And the fact is that he's selected a side in a certain way, and it's dependent on the game kind of playing out in a certain way. So you would like to think that if it's not happening the way he'd like it to, he has the opportunity to really change things up. And in the backs, that of course means having a forward back on at 10, moving Farrell back to 12, picking either pace or power at outside centre. You've got the option of bringing Mike Brown on for a bit more stability if the guys at the back are not able to counter attack or attack full stop. If that's not working, so there are various options, and I think we'll see change if things aren't going to plan. I think we'll see changes perhaps earlier than seems to be the standard at sort of 60, 65 minutes.
Yeah, I think Eddie's probably willing to be ruthless. Eddie, I quite like the fact that he said this week, like, this is what he thrives on, like this sort of pressure, this sort of turn it round. But it's all very well saying it. I mean, there was kind of chat about this after the Scotland game, and just nothing happened with France. If that's the same case against Ireland, then I don't know. To be honest, I mean,
this is our problem.
Certainly, there's certainly not going to be no repercussions, because it's ridiculous. It's sort of. And we're right far beyond that, but there does need to be a change there, and there does need to be a noticeable change.
Oh, I mean, like you say, we want the win, but the most important thing is the performance. Grinding out a shit win today it doesn't do anything for us other than just spoil Ireland's party. Do you know what I mean? Like we need a performance, not just a result, because the result doesn't count for anything now. So yeah, I think that is the key thing, and it's seeing the changes. I like the fact that Dan Cole has been moved to the bench, as you pointed out last week or at the beginning of the week. Statistically, he's just not doing what Dan Cole of old did, and Kyle Sinclair is. So it's the right change.
You can think, yeah. I'm really glad to see that. I'm actually, and I think I'm in the minority here, but I'm actually glad to see Hartley back. I think we have missed his leadership.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's been...
It's worrying. The lack of leadership is quite worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's frustrating. I mean, I always find this is a funny one, isn't it? When they talk about leadership on the team, like what are your leaders actually doing? If you think back to the 2003 World Cup, it's all well and good saying, "Oh, we had leaders everywhere." We had a Jono. Everyone just listened to him. I know that we had a Delalio, and we had a Wilkinson, and probably most of the team you could point at and say that they were leaders, but they weren't leading. We had a Jono.
Yeah, well,
do you know what I mean? Like, what does it mean to say, if you say, "Oh, lack of leaders"? What should these guys be doing from a leadership perspective that they've not?
So for a start, when the breakdown's not working, someone needs to take hold. Be it, and it wasn't really Owen Farrell's job, to be honest. It probably should have been perhaps a Rob Shaw, perhaps I don't know, maybe even a Laundry, perhaps a Dan Cole, to say, right, guys, we're getting smashed at the breakdown. We can't let this happen again.
I guess that's it, though, isn't it? Farrell does that for the backs, even when he's not the captain.
Yeah.
Hartley does it for the forwards. So you're right. I mean, it does highlight how important Dylan Hartley is, and I think we've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Dylan Hartley will go on to become the most capped England player ever, and that there's something to be said for that.
I'm not convinced.
You don't think he'll get 11 more caps in his career?
Well, I thought Robinson had 114.
Who?
Not Robinson. Jason Lennon.
111, I think it was.
111. So.
No,
Hartley's on 92, isn't he?
She wasn't even 111. I worked this out. I'm not going to do it again now. I have done it before. It's not very many caps.
Okay, fair enough. Well, either way. Anyway, let's go. I want to go and stare at Johnny. So let's leave this bit. But before we go quickly, prediction.
I'm backing England. And I think they'll win by 11.
Oh, I'm going England by 4.
Oh, I thought you said that Ireland were the favourites.
I'm still going to back England, aren't I? So yeah, I'm going England by 4. just my personal belief. And
No, I like it.
boys, come on. Let's have a
Time.
massive performance today.
Time to step up. Okay, guys. Well, look, we're gonna leave you with some anthems, as always. Well, not as always, but as always when we are together on match day. And you'll next hear from us at half time, hopefully with a cheery sound in our voices. So yeah, don't go away. Mate, what the fuck?
It's not going to plan. We need a massive second half. I actually think the game might be slightly beyond us now, but we need a massive second half for English rugby's sake, to be frank.
It's just another shit performance. Like, they're just playing badly again.
We're being outplayed, yeah.
I mean, it's not even that we're being outplayed. We're just playing badly. I mean, I guess that's the same thing. It's not that Ireland are playing brilliantly well and we're struggling to cope with it. We're just making too many mistakes. For me, I hate to say it, I think Itoje's got to come off.
He's not, but he's had a bit of a shocker, hasn't he? He's given away so many pointless penalties.
Yeah, but then Cruz has made 2 or 3 handling errors. Obviously, Watson's now off with his injury. Robshaw once again. I mean that Kyle Sinclair penalty. What was Robshaw doing?
I know. So what was he doing? I didn't see.
Oh, so Sinclair's gone over the top of the ruck to try and compete for the ball. Yeah, and obviously you've got to stay on your feet. Robshaw's come in behind him as the second man in, and instead of supporting him, he's just gone over the top of him and tried to get the ball himself, which of course has meant that he's squashed Sinclair down onto the ground. So Sinclair's pinged for coming off his feet.
Oh God, I missed that.
It's such a basic. It's frustrating.
Mate.
I just don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't really want to be doing this right now, but we need to. We owe it to all those other people that also think England are going to apparently win the World Cup in 2019.
England have become what's happened over the last few weeks. They're not becoming a good team, and again, 7 penalties already.
Oh, it's awful. The penalty count. I mean, this is it. Discipline is the key. Well, the breakdown's the key, but discipline as well. I mean, you just can't. It's not new science. You can't give away that many penalties, and when they're just shit, pointless penalties, I don't know how you get that through to players. If you've given them 3 chances and they're still doing it, the answer surely is just to say you're out. Prove you're not going to do that anymore, and we might look at bringing you back in. I don't know what to say.
How do the other teams not do this? This is what we need to look at. And one of the things that I guess it's mixed, but I always believe if you get the chance to take points early on, take the points, build a score. So I was a bit pissed off when we came away with no points. Fair enough, there was a sin bin. We could have got a try, but we didn't. I don't understand why we don't take points.
We did get a try.
No, but not from that.
Oh, yeah, it came a little bit later on. No, you're right. I mean, but again, that's a difficult one because 14 points down, England needed to get back into the game, and frankly, they should have done. I mean, they kicked for the corner, and they Ireland conceded a penalty, something three or even 4 times on the trot from doing exactly that. So I think actually that was the right call, but you can't then make stupid handling errors and throw away the advantage. So hindsight, yeah, you take the points, but I think on that occasion, I get what they were doing, but I agree with you. I think as a general rule, it should be if points are there, take them, build a score.
We're starting to remind me of the England football team.
But you can't, build a score, that's gone now. Was it 21? I didn't stay to watch whether he converted, but.
Yeah, 21.
21-5.
Yeah.
It's...
And that's the thing. Can you win a World Cup if your kicker's not getting those sort of conversions? Owen Farrell he needs to sort of crisp up his kicking a bit because
I agree with you. But one thing I would say about that kick was it not a bit weird that he was on the clock and he had guys running in front between him and it was a bit odd. I kind of think however many minutes later, I don't know who it was, but one of the Irish players was down. The clock got stopped and everyone waited, and then the line out happened. Anthony Watson was down, and there were about 10 people on the field trying to get him off the pitch. Is that not the time to stop the clock and just say, right, hang on a minute, let's just deal with this?
I don't think you can stop during play.
Well, it wasn't during play; it was for the kick.
Oh, was it?
So I don't know why they didn't just stop the clock and say, go away for a bit, let's get him off the pitch, make sure he's okay, and then come back and we'll start the clock again, and you've got your 1 minute to take your kick.
Mate, it's there's so much that's just beyond frustrating. England they've lost something. They really have. They've just lost something, and Ireland are.
They don't seem to want it that much.
Mate, I'd agree with that. Oh, and by the way, England, good call extending the dead ball out by 2 meters, dickheads.
I mean, if they can keep scoring tries like the Farrell Daly one, then it might be vindicated. But that has not definitely backfired on them this time. Luck of the bounce. Not really sure Ireland deserve luck, but clearly it is luck of the Irish, isn't it? Because it's basically another one of those. It's unfortunate. What can you say about that one? He should never have been in position to do it in the first place, but the actual ability to get through and ground it's unlucky. And again, it's one of those ones where 2 players have tried to make a tackle, and neither of them have succeeded because they're both trying. I kind of feel like Johnny May let go, thinking, I'm not allowed to make this tackle now. He's kicked the ball away, when in actual fact he should have just wrapped the legs, and that would have been the end of that, and it would have been perfectly acceptable because he started making the tackle kind of during the kick rather than after it. But,
I think Mike Brown may have found out the pace again as well.
Well, maybe, but we know Mike Brown's not. There's no point in saying he's going to get found out for pace. He's not quick. He's not there because of being quick. That's not what he does on the field. But mate, frustrating. I don't think there's much more we want to say about the first half. They need to come out as a different side. They've got 40 minutes to salvage something. Otherwise it's put a massive black mark over what they've achieved over the last 2 years.
It will be like, say, a worst situation since 2006. I'm starting to get really worried now.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Well, let's see what the next 40 minutes holds, and I guess just start praying.
Fingers crossed, hey?
We need something, clearly, other than what we're getting from the players on the pitch. But
yeah, I was a bit annoyed. I actually missed the first try. I popped down to get a beer because I'm a gladiator. And I came back. I was like, what the fuck? What's happening?
Where are you watching it?
Just at home.
Oh, where did you pop down to?
Just downstairs to the fridge.
Oh, right, okay.
Not down anywhere fancy, but...
Fair enough. Well, that clearly, I think that might be the reason.
You reckon that's it?
I think that might be the reason.
No more beer for me.
No more beer for you. Right, let's see. Don't have another beer in the second half, and let's see if it changes anything. Hopefully we've got something positive to talk about, because it's going to be hard work coming up with positives to take out of a loss that carries on along these lines. So we shall see what happens. Catch you guys. What for you will be a few minutes, but in 40 minutes or so when the final whistle blows. Hey guys, okay, so full-time whistle has gone. Obviously, I'm sure you've all watched it by now. Result not what we expected. We gave England quite a hard time at half time. There's probably not a huge amount of value in doing that again in the second half. We'd probably be saying much of the same thing. So I kind of think let's try and focus on some of the positives. Let's talk about what the next few months are going to hold in the build up to the summer tour, and just sort of talk about where England go from here. I think that's the key thing. So Dan, I kind of want to start by saying to you, what are the positives that we can take from this game?
Well, I'll tell you what isn't the positive. Fifth. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah. I did just say we're not going to focus on the negatives.
We're not. What are the positives we can take? The breakdown was better. England were better than the last two games. They did improve.
I mean, England. You look at the scoreline, and I know that a lot of the sort of the post-match punditry, they were sort of saying the scoreline flattered England, but don't forget that scoreline doesn't include the 3 kicks that Owen Farrell missed, which by his standards is pretty unheard of. The 6 points that he threw away there.
Don't forget, Ireland missed 2 penalties.
Yeah, true. But then they didn't have their, that 3 penalties from 3 or 2 penalties from 3 different kickers. I mean, they clearly didn't either. They didn't back themselves, or this was Owen Farrell, the kicking machine.
Yeah, but his kicking's off kilter, and like I said earlier, like that needs to be dealt with and fairly quickly, because that wins Test matches.
Absolutely. What I said before the game, Ford Farrell. For me, it's all about the breakdown. It's all about quick ball. When we had quick ball in the brief moments throughout the game where we got going quickly, I felt like Farrell was out of position at 10. And when Ford came on and we got quick ball, it felt right.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Ford Farrell with quick ball is the way forward. I think that was shown. Ford, though, does need to work on his game. I mean, his defence needs to improve a fair bit, because it does put a bit of stress on the rest of the team. And if you're not getting quick ball, that defence is highlighted quite a lot. I agree.
This brings us back to that same point. I think we have to stop, not us so much, although us too, but England need to stop thinking about, what do we do when we're not getting quick ball? The lack of quick ball isn't down to oppositions being too good. The lack of quick ball is down to England not using the ball when it's there. I mean, I was watching quite closely in the second half. Okay, it wasn't that they were always scrapping to get the ball. Yes, there is that element of it, and it's frustrating when you see England not committing enough people to the ruck, or just taking too long to try and get the ball back into a position. But the number of times when it was sitting right there at the back, and either it was the first man in or the second man in, should have been picking and going, or Danny Kerr or Wigglesworth or whoever the scrum half is, or whoever the first player is, needed to be picking that ball up and shipping it, because when that started to happen, when there was that kind of injection of pace and the tempo increased, England looked dangerous.
Yeah.
I can't remember whether we were talking about it separately or whether it was on in the build up. We were talking about world class players, and you mentioned Daly, and we were kind of saying, is he there yet? Maybe he hasn't had enough international rugby. He is a world class player.
Yeah, I think so.
Every time he got the ball today, he was the only guy on the pitch who, when the ball went wide to him, particularly off one of Farrell's passes, the kind of real shallow, real flat, aggressive kind of bullet pass out to Daly, you thought, oi, there's a chance. He looks dangerous. I mean, he's got to be one of the first guys on the team sheet when he's fit now.
I think he is. I think definitely. It's interesting. One of the things I noticed at the end as well was just for raise in intensity, as I think Delalio said in commentary. Why did they not have this 2 minutes before kickoff? Why do they not have that same mentality? I think, and this is making excuses somewhat, I think they need a rest. I think a lot of them have played a lot of rugby. It's been quite intense. They've had a really tough training camp throughout the Six Nations, tougher than any other nation. I think it may be time for them to just get their head off it.
I hear what you're saying, but that doesn't really fit with the how is it they've got the intensity after then playing 75 minutes of rugby?
Well, yeah. So it's not that. It's just the wanting it more. I think mentally as well as physically. So I think that was a mental thing. I think mentally they're tired.
Oh, but what
I think.
Yeah, but so how are they finding this sort of intensity in the last 5-10 minutes if they're so tired?
Because it's consolation. I mean, they're just like, God, we can't go in like this. It's just a consolation. We need to get a point. England have a habit of doing this anyway. They chase the game too late, in my mind. For me, I think Scotland chase it too early, but England, I think, always chase it too late. At the end, you did notice a difference. They were there. They were all running. They all seem energized. Throughout the game, I felt this for the last few weeks, that the England players are just not. They're not quite right. They're not playing to their best of their ability. They do look tired. They don't look as motivated as I think we've seen them before. Think of them down in Australia when they did that tour.
Yeah,
like the players just. The intensity they're playing with, just everything. You never see a Toja anymore. You never see him like do his celebrations for a big hit. They just seem to have lost a little bit of that. Just a little bit of that edge, a little bit of that something that made them, stand out. They don't seem to have it anymore. Whereas Ireland, don't get me wrong, Ireland are a better team than us at the moment.
See, I think they played better today. I didn't think they played great today. I think they gave away less penalties, which was really important. They took more of their opportunities. I mean, you think about that game. How many opportunities did England have where actually they were so nearly there? There would be a run of play, a series of phases. They'd be right there, and then one error, a knock on, or a forward pass, or maybe it wasn't a forward pass today, but lots of little knock-ons, or getting isolated. In phase 12, someone makes a run and gets isolated, and so the ball inevitably gets turned over. But up until that point, they'd built, and it just needed that execution at the end. And I'm not making excuses, and I'm not saying that the game should have gone a different way. But I'm saying that I don't think England are as far away as we're making out, despite coming fifth on the table. I think they've clearly got work they need to do, but they're creating the opportunities. They're just not kind of putting the final nail in the coffin.
They are good enough to execute those when they want to, but there were also a few times when passing wide, where the pass was just slightly behind. It wasn't running on.
Slowing things down a bit. Yeah, I mean, again though, that's individual errors.
Yeah, but that's at the moment that's England, unfortunately, and it is those things we can say, oh, it's so close, but. There's no, there's no benefit in being close. There's nothing, especially at international level, you need to execute. Think about the All Blacks. The reason the All Blacks are so good is they get those half chances and they finish them 9 times out of 10, whereas England don't finish them 9 times out of 10. And that's a big difference.
But we're talking about the last 3 games.
Yeah, the last 3 games mainly, but actually. All 6 nations, I don't think we've been great. I mean, Wales, we started well, but after that, Italy. I think from half-time the Wales match, since then, we've been a pretty poor team.
I mean, certainly the performances haven't been there, but I think compared to Scotland and France, today they created opportunities that they didn't do against Scotland or France. There was an intensity, albeit in little dribs, and I think that was the problem today. Yes, it was the last 5 minutes. There were little moments though. It wasn't just the last 5 minutes. It was like little pockets of kind of 3 or 4 minutes here and there throughout the game. Instead of 80 minutes, which is what the whole point of supposedly pushing them this extra mile and making them the fittest side in the world and all this other stuff. They're meant to be able to do it for 80 minutes instead of doing 3 minutes here, 10 minutes off, 2 minutes there. 9 minutes off. That's kind of how it felt, because there were definite moments where you thought, okay, we're starting to build something now. They're 2 tries back, but that whole series of penalties in the corner, and I know we talked about it in this is in the first half. We talked about it at half time. You've got to take points, and it's regardless of whether or not the decision was the wrong one and whether they should have gone for the posts. They should have scored a try.
Yeah, they should have, but I think that's almost the point.
If they'd maintained control of the ball, they probably would have scored a try eventually.
But I think that was almost my point. I was never on the edge of my seat thinking, the try is coming, the try is coming. If I'm honest, I was there thinking, how are we going to fuck this up? And I know that's sort of negative, but that's actually what I was thinking. And I definitely wasn't thinking that about England a year ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, they've obviously got lots to work on. That's no secret. We're not revealing anything new to anyone with that. But it's I think, which is why I think it's important now to sort of say, okay, well, it's done now. There's nothing we can do about it. There's no point in us just pointing out the obvious, because that's what it is with England. It's obvious. You know, it's not like something's not right and we don't know what it is and it's really frustrating. You know, we can see exactly what it is. It's an intensity. It's a kind of a desire to win that seems to be missing until the very, very end when it's too late. I think it will be good for them, as you say, to get a bit of a rest. I think it will be good for the squad to come back in full, for the team to have a bit more kind of continuity in terms of who plays where, because I think that back row, there's still question marks. I mean, on that, Haskell and Don Armand are the two probably, you know, that we want to talk about. They're the two that, you know, Haskell's been given his first start since Australia, the Australia tour.
I thought he made a difference.
I thought he looked good. I think I would imagine he will go to South Africa. I know that some players will be rested, but I suspect Haskell will go out there. We'll see. Don Armand, I think, will probably go to South Africa.
I hope so.
If Billy's back, you'd think he would go.
Yeah, he's not played a huge amount of rugby. I'm sure he can handle it.
You know, and that could be a very different looking side. I mean, I don't know if Don Armand plays six. Does he?
Yeah, he can do. He can play anywhere in the back row.
So, you know, Haskell, Armand, Vunipola wouldn't be the worst looking back row, would it?
That looks pretty tough.
And actually, today was the first time when I felt like there are question marks about our second row.
George Cruz didn't have a good game. None of them did, actually. Itoje had a poor game. Yeah. George Cruz had a pretty poor game. And the others probably weren't on long enough, or Laundry probably wasn't on long enough to give him a fair analysis.
But I think Laws, when he's fit again, I think there's a need to look at him in the row.
I think so. I think Itoje, for me, needs a rest. Yeah, he's played so much rugby.
I also think he needs a bit of a kick up the bum. You know, I think in terms of, you know, your position is by no means cemented. Like you still have to perform. I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him to be told, you know, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant now because he'll be rested because he's played a lot of rugby. But, you know, I think he does need to know that it's not him in one, you know, in one of the shirts, and then the other three get to fight it out for the other one.
Yeah,
because he definitely doesn't come across like the same player he did when he first came on the scene and was given his first shot.
Nowhere near.
He almost comes across now as a little bit petulant. Like you see, a lot of the time he makes silly mistakes. I mean, basic errors like in the line out when he's pulling down his opposite man. You know, you can't be doing stuff like that. You know, schoolboys know that you're not allowed to do that. But then also just all the sort of pushing and shoving and he never struck me as that kind of player before.
I think a lot of it's frustration.
Oh, I'm sure it is. But, you know, even if that is the case, maybe you just need someone to say, do you know what, we're going to go with somebody else. You've got a few things you need to work on. Just give him that little kick to say, oh, hang on a second, what am I doing? You know, I need to go back to really wanting to wear that shirt, because I think that's always the danger of having players who are kind of cemented in. I mean, you look at like an Owen Farrell, and even though he always looks like he desperately wants it. You know, he desperately wants to be in that shirt.
Yeah, I think so, and I think a little bit of that sort of magic has lost. But hey, do you know what they need to do tonight? They need to all go out as a team and they need to get absolutely medieval. I mean, I want to see Dan Cole with no eyebrows and a tattoo of Sinclair on his arm or something. I want to see Joe Marler's head shaved, and just all of them. They need to just have that blowout, take a few days, just get it out their system, and then really sit down and reflect.
I mean, what is the next? When's the end of the season? I mean, obviously it's not yet. We've got a while to go yet. It's in May.
It's sort of May, isn't it?
So they're obviously all going to go back to club. I mean, when are England likely to next meet up?
I would have thought towards the end of the season, minus for people whoever that will be in the Premiership final, probably Saracens, Exeter, so half the squad. But yeah, probably just there before the South Africa tour.
It will be interesting to see what he does about that. I guess you definitely rest the guys that your Farrells. That's about it. Your Daly, Farrell and Daly, maybe. Yeah, no,
maybe not Daly because he's had a bit of injury, so he's maybe not had a full-on season. I would definitely rest Atoje.
Yeah,
I would rest probably Dan Cole, Farrell for sure. There's quite a few I think I'd give a rest to.
It'll be interesting. I mean, it's certainly as far as these episodes go, it's gonna be a case of getting back to looking at some of the. We didn't want to be doing it at this stage, 18 months out, but I think it's going to be a case of getting back to looking at some of the guys that have been on the fringes. We probably see a Nick Asekwe or someone out in South Africa.
Christian Wades, Billy Twelvetrees.
Okay, so my next one then, Brown. We know he's been shown for pace. We know he doesn't have that.
I thought he played quite well, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, I thought... He does add something. He does add that sort of grit, that determination. But my issue with Brown is just as happens to everyone with a bit of age, he's probably just lost that yard of pace that made him sort of a really, really top player. Now, I think he's still got the mental attitude for it, but physically he's been slightly shown up by others. I think there's others who are actually better players, even if they don't have that sort of same grit and determination as him.
And therefore, is he the right man to be on the bench?
I think he's probably the right man to step aside.
So
I hate to say that because I'm not trying to be mean, but the World Cup is almost 18 months away. It's not going to improve. I think now's the time to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I mean, I guess what Jack Nowell is the fourth man. So you have your Daly, Nowell, Watson, May as your back four. Three on, one off.
Yeah, I think so for me, because Daly can play fullback. Nowell's played a bit of fullback.
Nowell played fullback for the Lions.
Yeah, I know. So that's covered. It's not as if we're going to be suddenly without a fullback. I mean, if I'm completely honest, I'd have Alex Good.
Well, yeah, I was going to. That was kind of. I've got that written down. Does he need to be looking? I know he said that he doesn't want it because of playmakers. I mean, I guess if you want, I don't think he should, but I guess if you were thinking Farrell at 10, then suddenly Good becomes much more of an option at fullback. But I just think the forward Farrell thing it was shown today to be important.
I do think that's important.
They looked a better side when it was Ford and Farrell.
But do you know what? Even that half of rugby, I think it was almost needed, just so it's kind of in the back of their mind, this is not a definite. Because up until now, it pretty much has been.
Yeah.
So I think almost in the back of their minds, so they're not going to rest on their laurels. They're going to start kicking in, proving what they're all about.
How does Eddie Jones get through to the players that stupid penalties like Marlow deciding to just shoulder charge a player without the ball because he happens to be moving in his general direction? How does Eddie Jones say, look, how many caps has Marlow got now? 50? Pushing 50? You can't do that. It's insane to me that you have players with the experience that some of these guys have got making just the most ridiculous mistakes. It's no longer acceptable to say, "Oh, it's the heat of the moment." You're a professional rugby player. You get paid a lot of money to be a professional rugby player. If you can't handle the heat of the moment, then you should be doing something else.
Yeah, I mean, and the heat of the moment is fine on a one-off, once in the Six Nations, not repetitively. So for me, I think it's zero tolerance. Sort of say to them, do you know what? I'm not going to speculate as to what the punishment for zero tolerance is, but just be like, this is what happens. I will stick to it. If you start, you get one per tournament the second time you do something absolutely ridiculously stupid, either you're dropped or whatever it may be, or you have to run with.
There just has to be something serious, doesn't there? Because it's that crucial time now. As it is, we're no longer, the Northern Hemisphere's big hope for the World Cup. That's Ireland for next year. And so England have got a lot to do to kind of put their hands back up and say, hold on a second, no, we're still going for that title.
Mate, fifth, that's unthinkable.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm ignoring that because it's shit, but it's down to small things, though. If Farrell had converted that try at the end, it wasn't fifth because we got the bonus point. Well, it wasn't necessarily fifth because we got the bonus point, and I actually think France are going to win. They're going to beat Wales, but.
Well, we actually want Wales to beat France by quite a bit because then we may go fourth.
Really?
Yeah, so I think we're plus 10, France are plus 15. So we want France not to get a bonus point and lose by more than 5. And then we finish fourth. Which, to be honest, do you know what? I don't give a shit. That's just.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The
table's the table. The results are in. I don't think any team in this year's Six Nations, despite a Grand Slam for Ireland, have been particularly great. Usually in a Grand Slam year, that team is a phenomenal side, and there've been some very, very close results, and not the greatest rugby. I think the Northern Hemisphere, as a whole, has got a bit of work to do. Despite the result, despite the results they got last, was it in the autumn? Because I just don't think anyone has really performed brilliantly in this Six Nations. In any of
no, it hasn't. I think what Ireland have shown,
apart from maybe Scotland against
discipline.
England,
yeah. I think what Ireland have shown is brilliant discipline can get you a long way.
And this is it, isn't it? I guess this is England up until this little losing streak. The ability to grind out wins and win messy and win ugly and all that sort of stuff. You're right. The discipline first and foremost. Don't give away a penalty, and you give yourself a really good chance. Taking points when they're on offer, build a score, just the little things, and then you get to have those moments of magic and build the score even more. And then I think the rest comes, and then I suspect the kind of the sort of the passion that they seem to be lacking comes along as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think I have it percolate for a few days, and then really we can go into it. But so today, Ireland won because 1, they're a better team. 2, they played better rugby, and 3, they wanted it more. They should not want it more at Twickenham.
No.
And that's upsetting. But hey,
I don't agree that they're a better team. I agree that they were the better team on the day, but I think England are a better team. I think England they've lost their way.
I don't think we can say that at the moment.
I'm saying it.
Are you saying it?
And that's all there is to it. I am. That's all there is to it. I think England are a better team. I think they are the best team in the Northern Hemisphere, but they've lost their way and they need to find it, and they will.
I think they're 5th best in the Northern Hemisphere,
and they will be back. But but you take it all too literally.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm more of a rely on the facts and figures and all. No, look, England are a better team than 5th, of course they are, and England are a better team than this Six Nations. But we can't keep saying, "Oh, look, it's the same players who did this, who did that," because what we've done recently. I mean, 3 games is not. It's not a hiccup. It's starting to become a trend.
Yeah, but we need to get realistic. It's 3 games. Yes, the first 2 losses were both identical, and the problems were quite clear. That this game against Ireland is different. England did show that it's not a complete loss. They haven't made the same mistakes. The big thing today was that lack of discipline, but also that lack of kind of just wanting it until it was too late. I think that's the positive we've got to hold on to in this one, because it's easy to say, oh, they've lost 3 in a row, it's a trend, there's a real problem, but that's not getting us anywhere. We can't keep saying we're the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup.
I still believe it. I think it's good that it's been highlighted now because we need to go and fix that.
Hang on, start from I still believe it again.
I still believe it. I still believe we'll win the World Cup. And I think it's good that all this stuff's been highlighted now because we can go and we can fix the problems, be them mental, be them skill-based, be them whatever it may be. But it probably is good it's highlighted now, but it's also worrying that it's gone from such a high to such a low so quickly.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? It's frustrating, and this is why I'm trying to kind of look for positives, because it'd be very easy to say, 3 in a row, what's the fucking point? Can't be bothered to do this anymore. Oh
no, yeah, it's
but
not.
I don't feel that they're there, and I've seen enough of an improvement. Albeit I would have liked to have seen more, but I've seen enough of an improvement from the Scotland and the French game, and particularly the French game, to this one to say, okay, that they're starting to get there. It's a shame there isn't another game or another couple of games just to see if they can get themselves out of this rut. I still think they're going to go to South Africa and do a 3-0, and I think they're going to be looking a lot stronger come the autumn. I don't know what's the order of the games in the autumn.
I'm not sure, actually. I don't know. In my head, I thought New Zealand were last, but I could just be completely making that up.
Well, that would be nice. Let's hope that is the case, or at least second or third, so we can get a game with our sort of first team. I think England actually have got a Barbars game in May before their summer tour.
There normally is, isn't there? But that normally is a very much a sort of B team.
Well, it is in normal years, but I think the year before a World Cup and after coming fifth in a Six Nations, he might decide to use it as a bit of a sort of practice run, just to possibly even to say to the guys that aren't going to go on the summer tour, this is we want another run out before we kind of call it a day for you for a few months. I know we'll see what happens.
Possibly, but that'll be a lot will be determined based upon who's in the Premiership final.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well let's leave it, because I think at the moment, the disappointment of the result is probably clouding some of our judgment, and obviously when we come back next week, we can try and digest this in a more statistically in a more positive way, and give everyone a reason to keep coming back and listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the moment, I'm staring at a bottle of bleach and thinking I might put that in my wine glass.
Mate, just drink it straight from the bottle.
I normally would, mate, but I'm trying to be a bit more civilised these days.
Call me if it does causes you any problems.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, sweet. If I don't hear from you, I'll assume everything's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, on that slightly weird note, guys, thanks for joining us again. Thanks for sticking with us despite a pretty stressful Six Nations championship. It's probably not been the most enjoyable, but we take the wins and the losses en route to the ultimate goal, of which is of course still to win the World Cup next year. And as Dan said, we still believe it's going to happen. So hopefully you do too, and that's why you're sticking with us. We'll have to come up with some new content for the next few months, because obviously there's no rugby. But we'll come up with something good, I'm sure, and hopefully you'll continue to join us. And obviously we'll be back in the summer for the Tour de South Africa, and we'll be bringing you all of the highlights and things from that as well. So thanks for joining us. As I say, get in touch with us if you've got any ideas for what we can do. It'd be great to hear from you. We actually last week, Dan, you asked you asked our listeners if they knew the answer to get in touch with us about when was the last time that New Zealand lost 2 on the bounce. And actually one of our listeners got back to us on Twitter and informed us it was, I think, 2011, just before the World Cup. They did it against Australia, and I think again in South Africa. So
who told us that? Let's thank him. Or can you not remember?
I can't remember. If you want to check our Twitter account,
we have a Twitter account. Oh shit.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, no, whoever it was, thanks very much.
It's Michael Cronican. He said from memory, he's not looked it up. All Blacks lost 2 in a row in 2011 in South Africa and in Australia in the last 2 games prior to the Rugby World Cup. So it has been done before by a team as great as New Zealand. We've just done it a slightly different way. We've decided to do 3 in a row.
Yeah, exactly. We're just outdoing them. But guys, if there's anything you want to know more about, want us to do, let us know. But more importantly, make sure you're tuning in next week because we're going to do the full Six Nations whammy and roundup, and that one should be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. So get in touch, guys, at England Rugby Pod, the website www.englandrugbypod.com, and as always, please share the love, rate us, review us on iTunes. We're also on Acast, and hopefully we will catch you next week. Cheers, guys.